Should you still consider the Remington 700? This week on Mail Call Mondays. Mail Call Mondays is brought to you by Modular Driven Technologies. If you need a chassis system for your precision rifle, check out mdttac.com. I'm John McQuay with 8541 Tactical, and this is Mail Call Mondays, the show that answers your questions about precision rifles, optics, and equipment. Welcome to another Mail Call Mondays, and this Monday our question comes from John, and John asks, do you see any value in accurizing a Remington 700 anymore? With custom options like the Nucleus and Origin, would an individual just be better off selling their standard action, or do you still see value in upgrading a rifle someone already has and adding all the bells and whistles like M16 extractor, side bolt release, fluting, and full truing of current production Remington 700 action? I always enjoy your content. Please keep it up. Well, John, you have a really interesting question here because I am a Remington 700 fan. I know you guys have heard me bag on them a lot, so you may kind of think I'm not. I have quite a few of them. I still continue to buy them occasionally, like the Remington 700 stainless short action that I have here that will be going into our Budget Precision 2 project. Remington 700s have kind of gone over this roller coaster of quality. The question of if they are still relevant really depends upon what you want to do with them. There are still a ton of Remington 700 rifles sold that go out to hunters, that go out to just your basic target shooters, varmint hunters, plinkers, etc. The factory Remington 700, just the way it comes out of the box, is a hit or miss here lately. I have gotten some of them that shoot very well, and I have gotten some, now we're talking about completed barreled actions, I've gotten some that really did not stand up to expectations. Now, all of them can be cured by taking them to a gunsmith, a qualified riflesmith, someone who's experienced with actually machining, not just gun plumbing, and can turn the face of the receiver so that it's true. They can clean up the threading inside so that it's all true to the bore of the action, the center line. They can clean up the bolt face. They can lap the lugs or true the lugs up so that they are perpendicular, so that when it recoils, the bolt isn't stressed to one side or the other. I don't see a ton of reason to go through and do things like the M16 extractor unless you really want to. Generally, if they are not messed with and if they're kept clean, the regular clip type extractors that come in the 700 work very well. The ejector works very well in it. The bolt release, actually, I see more problems with some of the outside bolt releases. Some of the push-button bolt releases that guys put on the side of the action than the actual factory bolt release. The factory bolt release is a pretty solid chunk of metal, and it bears against the pin that holds your trigger in. So repeatedly banging the bolt back and forth, occasionally it will stick because of debris or gummed up lubricant or things like that in the actual action itself. It'll stick down and allow the bolt to come out, but usually if you get in there with a knife or a pick or something, you can free it up without actually having to pull it out of the action. If you have to pull it out of the action to mess with things, then you can screw up your torque and you're probably not going to maintain zero. It's probably not something you want to do at an actual field event or at a match. Now the bolt releases that a lot of people put in that bear on the back of the bolt lug, it sits in the raceway. Those, if they're not done very well and with very close tolerances or with very hardened rods or pins through them, then they can get beaten to pieces and fall out, and then your bolt comes flying out. I've seen some aftermarket actions that have had that problem. They're generally high mileage actions, lots of dry fire, lots of bolt cycle repetitions on them, and the bolt will just pop out, and hopefully it doesn't smack you in the face. Sometimes it does, and then you have to figure out some way to keep it trapped in there. So I don't see a lot of reason to modify the action. but they will generally need a little bit of love to true everything up. And that generally is not something you're going to waste money on a barreled action. You'll usually wait, either you'll use a bare action or you'll wait until your barreled action needs to be rebarreled, throw the factory barrel away, and then that process will be gone through when it's barreled with a premium blank. So the Remington 700 is still a viable option if you keep those little issues in mind. Now, if you buy one and it shoots, it shoots. But if it has problems, there's going to be a lot that probably needs to be gone through and done to it, and it can bump that price up a little bit. Now, when we talk about aftermarket actions, like just off the top of my head, we've got Ultimatum Precision, American Rifle Company, Surgeon, Stiller, Defiance Machine, Bat, Kelbley's, and there are a ton of other ones, Seekins Precision, just a bunch out there that are currently producing 308 class actions, short actions, and long actions that are suitable for tactical precision rifle competition. So these actions vary in prices from right around $1,000 to the sky's the limit, depending upon what features you need and what kind of finishes, etc., that you want on them. Now, if we stick down around in that $1,000 price point, which you tend to get a lot of bang for the buck for that, that's still going to be more expensive than buying a Remington 700 action and having your average gunsmith true it up when he installs a barrel. Because remember, if you buy any of these high-end actions, you still have to have a barrel installed. So a lot of times you're going to get a decent deal on truing the action when they're installing the barrel, and that cost will kind of be minimized. The smith is still going to have to do things to these, and most smiths are going to want to do things to the action because they're going to hang their name on the barrel install job. So they could do the barrel install perfectly. If the action's a little bit geeked up, it's not going to perform well, and they're going to catch the flack for it. So those are some things to consider, that if you go with a high-end action or even a intermediate range action, $1,000 action, you're still going to have a barrel installed on it. With the Remington, you're in that low-end price point to purchase the action itself. Brownells usually sells bare actions. There are a couple other ones. Northland Shooter Supply will sell them. So they're out there, but then you're going to spend another couple $100 to have a smith true it up. So there you're still under the price point of the midline custom actions. Now, what you really have to think about, though, is features versus how long you're going to have this action. With the Remington 700 factory action, you don't have things like the side bolt release. You are stuck with a 90-degree throw action, where some of these aftermarket actions are 60-degree throws, so they're a little bit faster on the bolt. You still have a relatively small bolt knob that is relatively close to the side of the action or close to the scope bell whenever you are moving it. So you may end up having to put an aftermarket bolt knob on it, which again bumps the price up. You have things like a separate recoil lug that has to be held onto the front of your action with the barrel tenon, whereas a lot of these aftermarket actions or premium actions in that $1,000 price point will come with an integral bolt lug or an integral recoil lug. So those things all kind of factor into the decision on which direction to go. Now, if you're a guy that already has a Remington 700 and you're trying to decide, should I keep this Remington 700, have it gone over, have it rebarreled, bedded into the action, or torqued into a chassis, or should I just dump that whole deal and should I go with an aftermarket action? I say keep the Remington. If you already have it, then you're really not going to get a lot of money out of it selling it to someone else, and you're really not going to get a huge value by just jumping ship and going to another action. Now, if you're starting with a clean slate, my opinion is leaning more towards an aftermarket action. There are a ton out there. You can go with an action that will still drop into a 700 footprint chassis or stock. So the sky's the limit. You can go with an action that still accepts a 700 trigger. So again, the sky's the limit on what trigger you want to install, what chassis you want to install, how you want to configure it. If you go with one that has a Remington bolt face or a Remington bolt nose, and a Remington thread pattern, then you can use things like the Remage prefit barrels. The current trend seems to be standardizing on the Savage thread pattern and Savage bolt nose pattern, so that if you buy a receiver like an Arc Nucleus, then you can thread a barrel that is prefit for a Savage into that. So there are things that you need to weigh out. Again, my preference is if you already have it, go for the Remington 700. If not, then consider one of the aftermarket actions that are out there. New ones pop up all the time. I've been really interested looking at the Arc Nucleus. I haven't had a chance to get one in yet. We may give Arc a call a little bit later on this year, or we may talk to them again at SHOT Show and see what we can lock on there. We do have one of the new Bad Rock rifles, which is an offshoot of Defiance Machine. So it has one of their Remington 700 type actions. It's a Remington 700 footprint, but it has a lot going on for it. So you'll see more information coming up about that in the beginning of December. So that is my opinion overall, but as always, I want to hear what you guys have to say. Do you feel that Remington 700 is just something that you're not even going to consider anymore? Or do you feel that the Remington 700 still offers enough value that it's something that a new shooter might want to look into? Please drop your comments down in the comment section below. And that's it for this Mail Call Mondays, but before we go, I want to let you guys know I do have a few of our patches left, and I'll leave a link to our website down below where you can pick up the patches. We have just a few left. We're going to get those out the door. We may have a handful left on hand when we go out to SHOT Show in January, but then it will probably be sometime next year before we reorder patches. So if you want one, make sure you check out that link and order one up before they are all gone. That's it for this Mail Call Mondays. If you guys have a question or comment over anything we've covered, please leave it in the comment section below or send it to us on Facebook or Twitter. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast app, you can send questions to us at 854-1tactical@gmail.com. If you'd like to follow us on Patreon, then we'll leave a link down below to our Patreon channel where you can learn more about how to support the content that you know and love. And until next time, get out and shoot.